and gentlemen, welcome to our show Truth Uncovered. Well, today we have seen a turnaround in the mood of President Trump of United States. After being very critical of India, labeling India and with lot of names, he has finally made a turnaround because probably India has taken a tough stand, shown resilience against Trump's administration, and the optics that probably they saw in SEO meet with Prime Minister Modi along with President Xi Jinping and Putin probably made a difference. And India's push for BRICS and the global south to diversify its supply chains probably made the difference. Well, let's discuss about Trump's lost India moment and the high stakes geopolitical battle that New Delhi has won hands down, not as yet, but maybe in times to come. Well, the relationship between India and the United States has always been complex. Well, during Donald Trump's presidency, it faced its greatest challenge. What started with a warm public embrace of a special relationship quickly turned into a punishing tariff war, forcing New Delhi to reaffirm its core principle of strategic autonomy. This turbulent period not only revealed the transitional nature of Trump era's foreign policy, but also ultimately strengthened India's position as a rising independent global power. Ladies and gentlemen, in the early days, the partnership seemed to be on a very bright path ahead. A noticeable camaraderie between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump created a sense of genuine friendship that went beyond ordinary diplomacy. Trump called Modi a great prime minister and a friend, and several important defense agreements were signed between India and US, such as Communication Compatibility and Security Agreement called COMCASA in 2018 and the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement BECA in 2020. These two agreements played a vital role with us in our Galwan war against China as well as in Operation Sindoor against Pakistan. These agreements highlighted how closely the two countries' militaries were working together, united by a shared strategic aim to counter China's increasing influence in the Indo-Pacific through forums like the Quads. However, this personal rapport proved to be a delicate safeguard against the America First agenda unleashed by President Trump. The relationship started to weaken as Trump administration began to see trade as a zero-sum game. The first major setback happened in June 2019 when India's Generalized System of Preferences, that is GSP status, was revoked. A move that was both symbolic and economically important. The US explained this step by saying that India had not offered equitable and reasonable access to its market to the United States goods. The GSP withdrawal signaled an escalation. Punitive tariffs were imposed, beginning with a 25% reciprocal tariff on Indian imports, which was then doubled by an additional 25%, raising the total duty to 50% plus on certain goods. This constituted one of the highest tariff rates globally applied to any US trading partner. While the official justification for the imposition of the additional tariff was India's ongoing purchase of discounted Russian crude oil, the underlying motives were even more intricate. The tariffs also functioned as a blunt instrument to address grievance regarding India's reluctance to open its politically sensitive agriculture and dairy markets. These were reportedly also driven by President Trump's personal frustration over India's failure to credit him for mediating a ceasefire with Pakistan. The rhetoric from the administration was often as hostile as the tariffs themselves. The Trump himself made despairing remarks dismissing India's economy as dead and accusing New Delhi of imposing the highest tariffs in the world. This verbal barrage was amplified by his trade advisor Peter Navarro, who repeatedly and baselessly accused India, read Brahmins, of profiteering from Russian oil and even claimed that the Russia-Ukraine war was Modi's war. They hypocritically disregarded their own trade amounting to billions of dollars with Russia for import of essential like uranium, palladium and raw materials used for fertilizers which are crucial for the American economy. So what a contrast. On one hand, they are accusing India of funding the war. On second hand, they are directly doing billions of dollars of trade along with US, along with Russia. Are they not funding the war in Ukraine? Well, this stream of insults, often without fact checking, was seen as an expression of American frustration with India's independent foreign policy and a stark display of strategic autonomy by the Indian Union. The economic fallout was significant, but not catastrophic for India. The 50% tariffs severely impacted key Indian export sectors like textiles, gems jewelry, and auto parts, causing a sharp drop in shipments and a loss of competitiveness for the Indian exporters within the US market. For example, the textile sector faced a total tariff rate of around 59 to 63.9%, while the gems and jewelry industry faced a crisis of up to 52.1% total tariff. Interestingly and hypocritically, the vital sectors like pharmaceutical and electronics were spared as they were critical to American supply chains themselves, demonstrating a pragmatic limit to the protectionist policy. The Americans displayed that they are putting tariffs only on certain Indian goods and not across the board Indian exports to the United States. Because the other items which I just now mentioned were there to hurt the American economy as well. So they tried to shield those. And India's response was a masterclass in a diplomatic agility. Instead of capitulating, New Delhi firmly maintained its position on its core issues, epitomized by its steadfast refusal to halt purchases of Russian oil. Senior Indian officials articulated that India's energy decisions were based on national interests and the economic logic and not on the external demands of a government acting as a bully against India. This resolute stand was a powerful assertion of India's strategic autonomy, a doctrine rooted in its Cold War era non-alignment principles. The country's primary economic driver, the domestic consumption, proved a built-in resilience that limited the overall financial impact of the tariffs to an estimated 0.5 to 0.6% of the GDP. Besides, India resolutely protected its farmers, fishermen, and its skilled workers. Their interests were not compromised. At the same time, India prevented the United States of America to dump its genetically modified food items into the Indian market, causing harm to the health of our entire nation. Well, the turbulence has also generally accelerated India's journey towards a more multipolar world, a bilateral world. A Modi government has been warmly working to broaden its diplomatic and economic relationships, deepening its connections with the BRICS bloc and other nations of Global South. A notable moment that beautifully captured this strategic shift was the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, that is the SCO summit. The cheerful camaraderie between Prime Minister Modi, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping was warmly seen in the US as a diplomatic pivot or a friendly warming shot from the New Delhi against the Trump's protectionist tariffs. This display of unity clearly touched a nerve with Trump and the people in the United States, who took to social media to express their feelings, saying the US has lost India and Russia to darkest, deepest China. The diplomatic frost began to thaw when President Trump softened its tone, assuring that there was nothing to worry about in the relationship and emphasizing that he would always be friends with Modi. gentlemen, we have to note here that they had cancelled the negotiation, the visit of the delegation for trade negotiation to New Delhi on 28th of August. And now they say, yes, we gave a broader window till end of November. So this warm shift was likely influenced by the US foreign policy community and the key lawmakers who viewed the tariff war as a colossal blunder that negatively impacted American strategic interests. Experts like John Mearsheimer and former National Security Advisor John Bolton highlighted that the Trump's approach was having an opposite effect, possibly encouraging India, China, and Russia to collaborate against the United States. The consistent bipartisan support from the US Congress and the influential India caucus also played a crucial role, demonstrating that a core of partnership remains strong and deeply rooted, too important to be completely broken. Well, ladies and gentlemen, ultimately the Trump era left a complex legacy. And while the core strategic partnership in defense and technology remains strong, the friction created a lasting trust deficit within the Indian strategic community. The unpredictability of the administration reinforced doubts about America's reliability and solidified New Delhi's determination to hedge its bets. The period conclusively demonstrated that India's strategic autonomy is not a historical relic but a necessary and a pragmatic approach for a rising, navigating a fractured global landscape. The relationship has been reframed as a high maintenance partnership, one that must now respect India's independent role on the world stage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, India has shown absolute resilience and proved its strategic autonomy to the world. So now we have to see what comes next. And the best thing about Indian planners, Modi government, Dr. S. J. Shankar, Piyush Goyal and others is that we had an absolute crisis. We had definite challenges, but we did not take them as crises and challenges. We took them as opportunities, and we have started diversifying ourselves to different countries, preferably on a rupee trade terms, which would give a boost to our currency, which would give a boost to our trades, and the world wants us. Like UK, we already had a FTA. EU FTA is about to be signed as said by German Chancellor by November. We are negotiating FTA with New Zealand and Australia. We have negotiations on with the Global South, countries in the Africa as well as in South America. We are negotiating with the Middle East, and ultimately we are going to diversify our trade and make sure that we become a resilient economy, maybe number 3 in the times to come. And with this, because whole world is interested in India's largest market, so we can give them the market where it does not hurt our guys, our farmers, our fishermen, our skilled guys. So that we have protected, and we are protected with a lot of resilience, and then we have shown to the world that as long as the interest of our farmers, dairy products, our fishermen, or skilled workers of gem, jewelry and leather industry are concerned, we are not going to compromise even an inch on that. So that's a kudo to the Modi government. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope they carry on the same way, with same strategic autonomy, with same guile and the same proficiency, and make sure that India rises, every citizen of India rises, everybody becomes prosperous, and we have least amount of people below the poverty line. So this much enough for the day. Thank you very much for listening to me. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Hind Ki Sena.
Please like and subscribe.